Trump just signed the executive order to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. So he lived up to his promise of creating a Bitcoin reserve. And I don't think it's quite as bullish as most people have hoped. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening here and what it means for Bitcoin. And there's some very interesting differences between the reserve and the stockpile, which I think you're going to want to hear. So stick around because let's take a look at what the heck Trump actually signed. So what is this Bitcoin strategic reserve? The goal from it is to try and make the US the leader in digital assets, the crypto capital of the world, as Trump said himself. The reserve itself will be owned by the federal government, but it's not really the dream Bitcoin maxis were actually hoping for. Now, don't get me wrong. For price action, nation states building reserves is fantastic. But the way this reserve is being built is not through buying Bitcoin, and definitely not 1 million per year as Saylor tried to get. This is how they're funding the reserves. Check this out. Okay, this is a quote from David Sachs, the crypto czar. Quote, "The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin owned by the federal government that was forfeited as part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. This means it will not cost the taxpayer a dime." So what does this really mean? Regulation is coming, and it's coming in hard. This is from Stolen Bitcoin, by the way. This space has taken a massive shift since the early days of the cypherpunks, and right now it's heading into some hardcore regulation territory. Now, it's not necessarily all bad, but this is definitely a shift from the OG days. If you're denying that, then I'm sorry, you guys have lost the plot. Now, it sounds good from the outside, not costing taxpayers a dime, but it's costing freedom. With regulations, they're going to be looking at ways they can acquire more without costing anything. And I know this may seem very distant, but let me remind you of what happened in 1933 when the US government ordered everyone to deposit their gold in the Federal Reserve in exchange for a fixed dollar amount. Trump has given them the green light to develop strategies that impose no incremental costs to the American taxpayers. Who knows where that road could go? But the crypto czar estimates the US government is selling Bitcoin in the past has cost them close to about $17 billion in profits through premature sales. That's like what, 25 minutes of the Federal Reserve printing? Okay, but I digress. He estimates that the US government has about 200,000 Bitcoin currently. That makes them the largest nation state holder right now in the world. So it looks like the US government could be holding Bitcoin for the long run. But don't forget that Trump said that they could use Bitcoin to pay off the national debt. So whether their diamond hands last forever, who freaking knows? One thing is for sure, you cannot trust government, guys. But anyways, let's move on to the digital asset stockpile. And what is that exactly? Obviously, Trump made a recent post about some of the altcoins that will be in the pile. But why is it being put in a separate legal pile? I can tell you exactly why, and it's very interesting. The strategic Bitcoin reserve comes with a lot more red tape and basically has a do not touch sign on it, which, if you trust what they say, means it will never be sold. But, and this is a pretty big but, they can't use taxpayer money to acquire anymore. Did you hear that? They cannot use taxpayer money to acquire anymore, all right? So how do they acquire more? Well, they have to do it in a budget neutral way, which means it has to be neutral for the taxpayer. For example, they might sell off some gold and use the proceeds from that to buy more Bitcoin. This is very likely because they just label Bitcoin as digital gold. Or the more likely scenario is that they will bring in more rules and regulation to get those darn criminals, I think we're going to see a lot more centralized projects coming into the space now. And it is a great time to start acquiring more things like Monero. Privacy is going to become a huge issue going forward. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on, make sure you follow us on X at Crypto Tips Real. But anyways, this is where the digital asset stockpile becomes very interesting. This is more like a piggy bank for the US government. They can take the lid off anytime they want, and they don't have to go through as much red tape to buy or sell assets. They don't have to go through Congress, meaning they'll have quick access to it so the Treasury can do whatever they want. At first, this is going to be funded only from criminal proceedings. At least we now know the price that Ross paid for his freedom. So the key difference is that the strategic reserve is going to be treated more like gold, whereas the digital asset stockpile is more open to whatever they want without having to go through Congress. It seems they would start filling up the digital asset stockpile with new purchases before anything changes with the strategic reserve. There's probably a reason Trump's project is loading up with more Ethereum than Bitcoin. I think the future of this is going to get interesting and could have major implications on crypto prices. Now, the funny thing is, I thought it was funny, Bitcoin's price actually dumped on the news of the strategic reserve, so perhaps it's not quite as bullish as maxis have hoped for. The scary thing is at the moment is that just a few years ago, any news of this, even close to this, would have sent Bitcoin absolutely skyrocketing. But now it dumped and it's not even at all-time highs. I've been repeating that this next bear market, we're not in a bear market right now, will be brutal. And the fact that Bitcoin's struggling to pump right now might be a little concerning, but not too concerning. It makes me glad we had the foresight to take profits well above $100,000 with our members at learningcrypto.com. I would definitely recommend you checking that out to save your butt this cycle. Over the long term, meaning the next 5 or 10 years, we are going to see a lot more crypto adoption, and this space is just getting started. I think the global crypto adoption rate right now is around 7%, which is tiny. However, we're going to need some real innovators to come out of the works to build out some solid projects right now, because these regulations are going to come in thick and fast. They've already switched CBDCs with stablecoins, and there is very little difference between the two. These can track, freeze, and control everything with centralized stablecoins. But if you think about it, there's only one real stablecoin: Bitcoin. If you think I'm wrong, you're missing the point. One Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin. Privacy is key right now, and you need to have options available to protect yourself. A second citizenship is going to be more valuable than ever. So if you're wanting to get one, now is the time. If you need a lawyer to help you out with it, then check out the link to Jennifer in the description below. She helped us get our second citizenships. And right now, I'm so thankful for having that. All right, I want to know what you guys think about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Please leave your comments down below. I'd really be interested in seeing what you guys have to say. Talk to you soon.